Welcome to Vital Signs. A healthy body, mind, and soul are vital ingredients to a happy life. So let's get healthy. I'm Brendan Fallon. Please remember to like the video and share this unique health perspective with family and friends. Dr. McCullough is a natural health physician and a doctor of osteopathy. Dr. McCullough, welcome to Vital Signs.
Oh, thanks for having me.
This is a topic that I know you've written quite a lot about, sleep, getting optimal sleep. It's obviously influences all aspects of health. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about that to start with.
Well, sleep is vital. It may be one of the most important elements to prevent dementia, actually. So you've got to get high quality sleep, and many Americans suffer from that. I can tell you one of the things you don't want to do, if you are taking any prescription hypnotics, the term we use to describe sleeping pills, you want to get off of them as soon as you can. You also want to make sure that when you do go to bed, that a number of really important strategies to optimize your circadian rhythm. Our bodies they have this receptor in our retina that's called melanopsin, which is sensitive to blue light. And our bodies never had exposure to blue light, historically, ancestrally, after sunset. The only light was from fire, and fire has no blue light. Blue light will absolutely impair, and in many cases, shut down your pineal gland's ability to generate melatonin. So it's not a time of the day. It has to do with where you live and what time of the year it is. So when the sun goes down, that means you've got to avoid all blue light exposure. That includes every screen, your cell phone, your TV, your computer monitor. So ideally, there are software solutions for this, like almost all the phones have them now, and many computers do. But so you've got to stop the blue light after sunset.
I think you're referring to I know with the Apple computers, they have the night mode where it uses less blue light.
Right.
So this would be beneficial to sleep, you feel?
Yeah, I do. There's no question. And then the other thing is the intensity of the light. So even if there was no blue light, it was really intense, then that could be disruptive. So there are free lux meters that you could download as an app on your phone. That's LUX, and it measures the light intensity. So you want to be less than 20 lux after sunset, or at least an hour to 2 hours before you go to bed. Because if you're getting a lot of light exposure, even red light, it's going to be problematic.
Avoiding things like blue light at night to sleep better makes sense. As a student of the School of Hard Knocks, as I'm sure many of you out there are also, I've learned a few lessons myself on what to do and what not to do at different times of the day to sleep better. Not eating too much right before bed is an obvious one. I asked Dr. Silvio Fanbeek how this ties in with understandings of Chinese traditional medicine. Dr. Fanbeek has been in practice in Holland for more than 20 years. He is a graduate of the Emperor's College of Traditional Oriental Medicine in Los Angeles. Dr. Fanbeek, it's fantastic to have you on the show. Welcome to Vital Signs.
Happy to be here.
In terms of sleep, from a Chinese medicine standpoint, what is the body doing at that time?
Yeah, so Chinese medicine completely looks at the body differently than Western medicine. The ancient Chinese, they used terms like yin and yang. Maybe you heard about those. And they tried to describe the movement of energy going in and out. So during the day, they say that the yang energy expands when the sun comes up, like in the macrocosm. Also, our energy and our blood rise to the outside of the body. So that's a state of waking up. Now, going to sleep means just the opposite. Like the sun is setting in the earth, you can say. The yang qi, this vibrant energy, also goes inside the body. Starting to go to sleep is just this yang qi going into the body.
And in terms of this yin-yang energy, or some would pronounce it yin and yang, I understand that yin is the female energy and yang is the male energy. Is that correct?
Actually, everything can be categorized as yin or yang. For example, if you look at the body from a Western perspective, the nervous system has a sympathetic part and a parasympathetic part. The sympathetic part is the active part, is the fight and flight mode of the nervous system, which you can say is the same as yang. And the parasympathetic nervous system you can equate to the rest and digest phase of our body, which is considered yin. So actually, anything can be categorized as yin or yang.
So from what you're saying, Doctor, I understand that you want these yin and yang energies to be in balance. Too much yang energy is a bad thing. You'd be in a kind of fight or flight mode, which isn't good for the body. Alternatively, too much yin energy would be a bad thing as well. You wouldn't want too much yin energy in your body. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Actually, you hear a lot about balance in modern Chinese medicine, but actually it's a matter of the dynamic equilibrium. It's more about the change of yin into yang and yang into yin that is most important. Because, for example, from recent studies, they found that even the length of your sleep is not necessarily, it has to be 7 or 8 hours. The depth of your sleep, the quality of your sleep is more important. So actually, when you talk about insomnia, you don't have to ask, did you sleep 7, 8, or 9 hours? It's more important to consider the personal situation of the person and see if he had appropriate sleep for him. Some people can rest for 3, 4 hours and they feel fine. So insomnia should be defined, in my opinion, in terms of physical rest the next day and mental recuperation.
This makes sense, Doctor, because I know in Western society, we have this very rigid notion that you've got to have 8 hours sleep. If you don't get 8 hours sleep, you're not going to be functional. But from my own personal experience, I can have significantly less than that. And if it's quality deep sleep, I'm fine. I can get done what I need to get done for the day.
And actually what's happening with insomnia, there's an organ which is called the Chinese liver function. The liver organ is responsible for pushing this yang energy to the surface, into our muscles and our tendons, to be active, to use the body during the day. Now, when the night is coming, this yang energy has to go off the surface. So the muscles and the tendons have to relax in order to be able to go to sleep. So this yang energy goes in the body, and it takes the blood with it back to the liver to be processed. So this out and in movement, that's actually what maintains this rhythm, both in nature and in our body. If that is disturbed, we will experience a form of insomnia. And this time of the liver being most active, being able to do its job, is between 1 and 3 a.m. So people who wake up during 1 and 3 a.m. or who are restless during 1 and 3 a.m. or cannot sleep between 1 and 3 a.m., they most definitely have a liver problem. And what I notice in clinic is that this mental aspect of insomnia, for sure, is usually involved.
Understanding that this time at nighttime between 1 and 3 a.m. is when the liver is detoxifying the body, how can we live our lives according to this clock to optimize our sleep and optimize what the liver is doing at that time?
Yeah, so this body clock actually means that in a 2-hour period, according to Chinese medicine, the energy is in one of the organs in its most optimal state, let's say. So between 9 and 11 in the morning, the spleen function is most optimally performing. That means that the spleen, which is connected to our digestive system, means that we should eat the biggest meal during the morning, especially in the morning. So if the digestive system works best between 9 and 11 in the morning, that means between 9 and 11 in the evening, it's at its weakest. So it means, for example, that people eat during the night in the evening, actually going against this natural flow, and they will give their body a lot of let's say extra work to do just before going to bed. And so food is also considered one of the big problems causing insomnia in Chinese medicine.
Getting back to the liver and its role in the wide awake at 3 a.m. phenomenon, Western medicine, like Chinese medicine, recognizes the detoxification function of this organ. Another liver function is processing glucose. Curiously, this can also factor into waking up too early. On that topic, let's do a little breakdown of metabolism. Glucose is a main source of energy for your body. Your body creates it from the carbohydrates in the food you eat. When the body doesn't immediately need this glucose energy, it stores it as glycogen from your liver and muscles. This way it can be used as a quick fuel source for metabolism in the time between meals. Your glycogen stores will give your body about 12 hours of accessible glucose, basically sugar. After that's depleted, the body starts breaking down adipose tissue, body fat. This frees ketones for use as fuel. If your metabolism is healthy and flexible, the shift from glycogen over to ketones is seamless. In this case, going without food for several hours is no issue. Where it is an issue is if your metabolism is trained to mainly depend on sugar for fuel. In this case, the shift from glycogen to ketones triggers a stress response. Namely, the adrenal glands release the hormone cortisol to raise blood sugar, and this is where the waking at 3 a.m. comes in. Whether the stress is physiological, as we've been describing, or emotional, it strains metabolism, and abrupt waking from sleep inevitably follows. The waking is caused by the hormones epinephrine and norepinephrine, also known as adrenaline and noradrenaline. Anyone who's seen the film Pulp Fiction knows the effect adrenaline can have on an unconscious body.
You're going to give it a shot. You're going to give it a shot. I ain't giving it a shot.
Of course, we're talking about something a little milder than the heart starter injection John Travolta gave Uma Thurman. Even so, a drop in blood sugar at 3 a.m. is enough to have you waking abruptly. But these fight or flight hormones, epinephrine and norepinephrine, need not be tapped if your blood sugar is balanced. In this way, becoming metabolically flexible can be your key to staying asleep. Brandon LaGreca is a scholar of Oriental medicine who writes for Epoch Times Health. He suggests a simple test to see if unbalanced blood sugar is what's waking you up. This is a very basic experiment that anyone can try. First off, have an early dinner and fast until bedtime. Right before bed, though, you can alternate between eating one of the following: a teaspoon of raw honey, a slice of lunch meat turkey, or a tablespoon of coconut oil. For example, the first night you could try the honey, the second night the turkey, and the third night the coconut oil. Whichever one stops you waking at night. If one stops you waking at night, that food is your clue to how metabolically flexible you are. That is how efficient your body is at burning fats for fuel instead of sugar. If raw honey keeps you asleep, it's a sign that you're metabolically inflexible. If it's the ketones from the coconut oil that works, it's a sign you're metabolically efficient. Whereas if it's the turkey that keeps you asleep, it's a sign your body's adapted to a higher protein diet. Some people do best with a high protein intake. The protein in the turkey burns slower than the raw sugar of honey, but it can still be converted into sugar in the liver. The turkey will also deliver you a nice dose of tryptophan. Tryptophan is the precursor amino acid to melatonin, the body's natural sleep regulator. Unbalanced blood sugar waking us up you could say is looking at this issue through a Western medicine lens. Contrastingly, Chinese traditional medicine has its unique takes on how state of mind is reflected in the liver, and how that in turn influences sleep.
In Chinese medicine, it's always been the spirit that drives the physiology of the body. That means the influence of the spirit and the mental state on the physiology of the body is much more important than in Western medicine, where the body and mind are separated. So the liver also has a function to purify or detox the emotions at night. The state of your mind has an effect on the organs, which will have an effect on the quality of your sleep. So, for example, if you during the day you have too much frustration or anger, or you cannot move forward, you feel stuck, this emotion will affect the functioning of the liver organ in Chinese medicine. Now, this will show up at night when the liver organ is supposed to do its job of purifying, detoxifying the emotions that the heart has built up during the day. And this time of the liver being most active, being able to do its job, is between 1 and 3 a.m. So people who wake up during 1 and 3 a.m. or who are restless during 1 and 3 a.m., they most definitely have a liver problem.
So given that the liver is performing this function of detoxification, that it's detoxifying the body, and from an ancient Chinese understanding is detoxifying the mind as well, between 1 and 3 a.m., what can we do during the day to optimize the sleep we get at that time?
Yeah, so actually this process explains the importance that is given in Chinese traditions like Taoism and Buddhism to the cultivation of mind. And again, emotions are needed to live your life. We need fear to preserve our life if we're in a dangerous situation, for example. But if an emotion becomes too excessive, it will start to damage our functioning and also our organs, according to Chinese medicine. So what we could do is to find a form of meditation or a form of cultivation that will help us harmonize our emotions better, deal with our emotions better during the day.
So a lot of times when people wake up early, like at 3 o'clock, they're thinking about things that are happening. So if you just make up this mantra, and it could be your mantra, it could be something like symbols of Om. Usually it's it's like a humming thing, and you don't have to hum it verbally. You could just do it in your mind. But when you're doing it and focusing on that sound, the disruptive thoughts that your brain is throwing at you can usually be thwarted, and you typically fall asleep in a few minutes, which is really cool.
If you've been watching Vital Signs for a while, you may already know one of my favorite meditations. I thought I'd see what Dr. McCullough has to say on this topic.
So caffeine is a stimulant. So you've got to be careful with caffeine. I'm not opposed to people taking coffee, but you just want to be careful with it, especially people who are slow oxidizers. I mean, if they have it after 12 o'clock in the afternoon, they might be up all night.
Right.
So it's just, you want to limit that for sure. And so those are the two things, that you're putting the brakes on your sleep system. So if you want to and I'll explain how to put the gas on with some other positive strategies that will accelerate.
I know if I drink coffee anytime after 4 p.m., I'm probably going to be feeling it when I get to bed.
Yeah. Well, the other thing you want, it's not just the coffee, but it's food. We talked earlier about the time restricted eating. So ideally, you want to stop eating at least 3 hours before you go to bed. I stop eating 6 hours before you go, which I think is more optimal because it takes that long to digest your food. And if you're digesting your food when you go to sleep, you're not going to be able to activate the repair and restore mechanisms of your body. And that could cause some metabolic stress, which would keep you awake.
This basic understanding that when you eat affects how you sleep is reflected in Chinese traditional medicine, as Dr. Fanbeck pointed out earlier. But what does this ancient Chinese science say about how what we eat affects sleep?
Chinese medicine can categorize anything as yin or yang. So also with the foods we eat and the drinks we drink, you can categorize it as yin or yang foods. Now, yang foods and yang drinks are quite stimulating, quite warming to the body. So the ancient Chinese, they didn't analyze their foods based on how much carbs, fats, or proteins was in it. But they looked at the food in real life. You can say in vivo, not in vitro. Because they just took in a carrot, they closed their eyes, and they experienced what it did with their body. So certain foods are calming to the mind. Certain foods are reducing sweating. Some foods make you pee better. Other foods
Like asparagus, right?
warm you up. Asparagus is one of them. Yeah. So some foods warm you up and some foods cool you down. Now, for this purpose of insomnia, where we'd like to drain the yang or actually cool down the yang energy, if I have a patient who I'm treating, he can also work against me if he keeps taking yang foods, warming foods, energetically warming foods to the body in the evening. So, for example, one should avoid in the evening to take warming meats like lamb or spices like garlic. I always tell people you need to take care of your sleep. Otherwise, your batteries cannot recharge. Because when we are not on, when we're not present, when we are asleep, the body can recharge. Because we actually abuse the body during the day, its energy, and it needs to be turned off. Our mind should leave, so the body can bring back this life energy, this warmth, this young energy back to its core and regenerate.
Have you ever had patients with insomnia where their diet has influenced their condition?
I remember having a menopausal lady who came in, and she also complained of insomnia. Now, I thought that the insomnia was linked to her menopausal, the hormonal imbalances from her menopause. And so when I started to treat her, her menopausal symptoms started to diminish greatly. But she kept having insomnia. So I found out that, digging a little further, that because she was in the menopause, she also had put on some weight. And she had started a diet. And this diet required her to eat 6 or 7 times a day, also just before going to bed. So when I found out that
she was dieting, she changed her diet in response to the menopausal symptoms.
Correct. She followed this diet that required her to eat 6 or 7 times, small meals a day.
Right.
And also just before going to bed. So when I found that out, I looked at the diet with her, and we resolved it very quickly, the insomnia problem. Because I told her to eat differently, like we talked before. You eat your biggest meal in the morning, given the organ clock in Chinese medicine. The digestive system is strongest in the morning, not in the evening.
Getting a good sleep is one of the best foundations for a happy and productive day. As we've seen, natural health and Chinese traditional medicine offer powerful insights into what fosters a good night's rest. Though I feel like today we've only just begun scratching the surface of that wisdom. I hope you join us again on this journey across ancient and natural pathways to health. I'm Brendan Fallon, and this is Vital Science.